Okay. Well, thank you. I want to start by saying I miss you guys. This year has been difficult. I realized that I wanted to spend more time with my grandson Joseph, who's here on Thursday mornings, and so I miss him or I miss you, and it's a tough choice. And then there have been a bunch of things going on in my personal life that have become full-time jobs. I'm taking care of two cats. I'm trying to get my former husband's estate together so my kids can do the things they need to do. And I just find my life feels a little bit hijacked right now. Um, and on Monday, I had an experience and I just wanted to share it with you all. So my practice would be discover our stories, the personal dimension. And it is we discover the power of our own stories and the ways our stories have been shaped by the land, as well as our cultures, economies, religious traditions, political systems, and personal and collective histories. So, those of you who came to the potluck found out that I am fortunate enough to live at the bottom of a trail that leads through the woods up to Lewis and Clark College. And in the warm months when there's a lot of light, I start my mornings a few times a week by walking up to Lewis and Clark. And last spring in 2025, as I was walking up and counting all the trillium I could see in the woods, I also noticed a whole lot of something I know of from various invasive weed pulls as Herb Robert or Stinky Bob. And Herb Robert is a nice thing to pull because it's got a pretty large plant and a pretty small root. And so when the ground is soft, you can pull out Herb Robert pretty easily and pretty quickly. And so I started pulling out some Herb Robert on my way up the hill, and I would just pull it on out and throw it on the trail because there's nobody on that trail at about 6:30 in the morning. And then on my way back, I would collect it all and dump it in my yard debris can. And so I did this all through March and April and May. And I would come down the hill with this huge double arm load of Stinky Bob and dump it in my yard debris can. And it seemed like one of these things that my husband's always laughing at me about, you're just always tilting windmills, aren't you? So, because my year has been kind of crazy, I hadn't made that trip this year until Monday. And I went up on Monday and I was counting the trillium and I saw very, very little Herb Robert. And the stuff I was pulling was really small. And so I did my thing. I pulled the Herb Robert on the way up and I gathered on the way down, and I had like half of one armful of Herb Robert. And I know Eco-Faith is, and maybe all I did was make that trail safer for English ivy and vinca and blackberries, which also are all invasive and all over that trail. But I hope maybe I made it safe for inside out flower and oxalis and other things that should be growing there. Um, but it was just, and I know we're at Eco-Faith, we're about organizing our communities, and this is really my individual action. But it was a nice reminder that sometimes it's hard to know if you're making a difference at all. And I'm sure I made a difference on that trail. So that's my story.